Well, hey, good afternoon, Russ. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. What's going on, Cameron?
Oh, not much. Afternoon on your coast. I'm out on the west coast, so it's a little bit late in the morning here for us. But thanks for jumping on, and for all of the attendees, we've got quite an audience here, so we're excited to get everybody some great information on the Ocala, Florida market and on top of the world. So, Russ,
Yes,
you're
sir.
out there in Central Florida, Ocala. What's the weather like today?
Oh my gosh, it's about 92 degrees and sunny. There's one or two little like fluffy marshmallow clouds out there. But we're looking for some rain in a little bit because dry season is over.
Okay, and that's pretty. You guys are kind of coming into that late afternoon, rainy, like almost every single day part of your year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like it's 3 o'clock, it should be raining.
right.
Yeah,
You can literally set your watch to it, which is kind of nice because it breaks some humidity and
yeah,
gives you a little relief of things, right?
you bet.
Now, Now, you guys, aside from the weather, geographically, you guys are in a pretty awesome situation for access to basically, most of Florida.
Oh yeah,
Can you give us some context about where, I'm going to share a map here in a second, but
sure.
context about where Ocala is relative to some other major parts of Florida that you might want to mention?
Oh yeah. So, the places everyone thinks about when they think of Florida, besides Miami, they think about um, Orlando. They think about Daytona Beach. They think
Sure.
about Tampa. So if you come straight west from Daytona, about 70 miles, you're going to come into Ocala,
Yep.
right across there. And then from Orlando, we're directly northwest from Orlando,
Yep.
and then north of Tampa. So this is what I like to tell people is Ocala is an hour and a half from anything you want to do except for wintertime sports. There's
Okay.
no bobsledding, there's no snowmobiling, but everything else you can want to do, it's an hour and a half. And when you're done, you're home at night in your own bed. So that's one of the great things I love about Ocala.
Yeah, that's perfect. And including three major airports.
Oh
You've got
yeah.
international airports, right? You've got Tampa, you've got Orlando, and then Jacksonville.
And we don't talk about Gainesville much, but there is commercial out of Gainesville. So
Okay.
rather expensive. Really, Orlando being the best place to fly in and out if you're coming to Ocala. Okay.
And it's the closest. How long would it take you if you flew into Orlando to drive up to Ocala, not factoring in rush hour traffic and all that stuff?
Hour and a half. Pretty easy drive because you're going to jump right on the turnpike quickly, and traffic on the turnpike is moves very well.
Awesome. Very
So you're
good.
going to Yep.
Okay. And then give us a rough estimate or just an approximation here. Like, how big is Ocala? What's the general population of the area? From one end to the other, how long would it take you to drive?
Well, Ocala is small town living. If you're living in Chicago or New York or Boston or someplace like that, we encompass a neighborhood in those towns. Really, we're about 65,000 people.
Okay.
We are a little bit sprawled for 65,000. We spread out a little bit.
You do, yeah.
Uh, on top of the world, particularly, is about 5.5 to 6 miles southwest of the center of Ocala.
Okay.
Okay, so out there is sort of its own little land of active adult communities with all of the supporting restaurants, stores, doctors' offices that go with that population. So the nice thing about that, speaking of doctors and hospitals, there's great facilities out there.
Okay.
West Marion Hospital is about 4.5 miles away.
Okay.
There's an emergency room about 2 miles away. Right outside the gate, there is a walk-in clinic.
Okay.
So you're covered all the way. You can go further into Ocala about 10 miles and hit Advent Health. Okay. Right across the street from Advent is Ocala Regional.
There you go.
Um, the important thing that a lot of people ask about hospitals is where's a trauma center? Where's the VA hospital?
Okay.
We have a VA clinic here in Ocala. There's a great VA clinic in Gainesville, which is 40 minutes north at Shands at UF. So Shands is a great hospital. They specialize in those odd things. VA hospital's right there in the same facility. So we're really in good condition on the medical side of it.
Wonderful.
There's also a new heart center being built about 2 miles away from On Top of the World, right on State Road 200.
Okay.
So that's going to be great for those of us who have tickers we need to worry about. It's going to be a great facility.
Wonderful. Very good. And then what about, so you mentioned On Top of the World, and that's one that we're going to focus on a lot here. So if you're in that area, where do you go for groceries, pharmacy, you know, just the general day-to-day services? Are they close, or you got to drive quite a bit?
No, listen, right outside the front gate, there's a plaza that you can access with your golf car. So you don't have to get in your automobile. You can drive out there. Our main grocery store here is Publix.
Yeah.
So there's a Publix shopping center out there. There you got a picture of it. That's good.
Yep.
Along with Publix, there's hair salons, nail salons. There are restaurants. There's a fantastic little breakfast and lunch place that we like right there. Banks, coffee shops. I'm telling you, it's everything you could want on your golf cart. Now, if you need a little more, like there's a Super Walmart about 3 miles away. Okay. Real close. You will have to drive your car. Okay. And then to downtown Ocala, heading towards Ocala, I should say, you're going to find our outdoor mall, which is Marketplace. Okay. Stores like Dillard's, DSW, Dick's Sporting Goods. It's right there before you get to the interstate. Okay. Outdoors. Right about there.
Yep.
There you got it.
Cool.
So that's about 5 miles. If you go another 1.5 miles, you will come into Ocala to our indoor mall, which is Paddock Mall. Okay. So shopping is everywhere, and we have all the stores people like, the Kohl's, the TJ Maxx, all those places are there.
And then if you want to get your Nordstrom fix or something like that, head down into Orlando, right?
Yeah. Yep. Don't have a Nordstrom's yet, but you never know.
Yeah, fair enough. We did have a question while we're on the topic of just services and you know, facilities around. What about like chiropractors? And actually we had, I don't know if you know any of this, but holistic medicine, is that something that's accessible in the area close to the community?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. There's several great chiropractors right there on 200. Okay. So right along that strip, there's some great places to go. Our personal chiropractor is a little further into Ocala. Acupuncturists, there's a great acupuncture person I go to, keeps this shoulder going. And there's some places about halfway into Ocala for your holistic things that you're worried about. No worries, we got you covered.
Very cool. That's great. Okay, let's dive into the community a little bit more. We are going to make some reference as well for everybody. You know, On Top of the World is one of the most popular. There are some others out there that we'll chat and reference as well. But On Top of the World, why don't you just kind of give us a general overview here, Russ? How big is it? How old is it? You know, what is the general makeup?
Well, you know, I love On Top of the World. To me, On Top of the World is like Florida's hometown, because everyone that comes to visit there, they're from all over the place. So it's kind of like all those hometown people coming into On Top of the World. It's about 5,000 homes right now. So in our market, we consider that a large community. So there's about 5,000 homes, about 9,400 residents. And that's just people. The pet residence is probably, we're close to that too. There's a lot of pets out there. It's a little bit of a sprawling neighborhood. So the homes are not jam up tight together. There's lots of places where your home will have wide open spaces behind it, maybe the golf course, some what we call dry retention areas, or just berms and beautiful vegetation so you get some privacy. The community's growing a little bit. They're still building new homes. So if anyone has questions about that, they got some great homes you could look at.
Excellent.
The I'm seeing a lot of amenities that you're showing here. Do you want me to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Okay. So with a larger population, there becomes more opportunities. So more clubs, more things to do. So in this community, there are 5 amenity centers.
Wow.
And there's 6 swimming pools. One of those right there is the indoor pool with a retractable roof. I
Yeah,
was
so
out there today and the roof was open and getting some good air in there.
awesome.
There are a bunch of pickleball courts. I think there's 12 and they're growing. Going to be more of those. 3 fitness centers and a full service spa
Wow.
that's outside the gates. 3 golf courses, tennis, bocce, shuffleboard, things like that, horseshoes, softball fields, miniature golf. There's racquetball, there's softball, there's billiards, there's archery. I have to catch my breath because we're getting so many things here.
Sure.
And one of the big draws, Cameron, is remote control airplanes.
Yeah.
That's a huge draw in that community.
Yeah.
So they have the remote control airfield with a paved runway. They've got a remote control car track and a drone and helicopter obstacle course. It's a blast just to stop out there and watch. There's some very talented people
out there. Last time I was there, it was pretty neat to see it.
Yeah. And the number of clubs is crazy.
Yeah.
There's clubs for music and drama. If you're from this is the Michigan Club, so everyone who lives there from Michigan joins that.
Okay.
There's a great veterans club, crafts, cards, travel, foodie, trains, library. There's just a ton of things, all different kind of clubs. If you're bored in On Top of the World, that's your fault.
It's your own fault.
It's all on you, man.
Well, and let me jump in here for a second too, because we've had a few questions around things like, are there singles in the community? And there's some religious questions on different, sects that people might want to be a part of. And, typically real estate agents aren't allowed always to answer those questions directly. But I think that ties into some of what you're saying is that the residents are going to set up those types of groups and lifestyle access for people. I don't know, maybe there is a singles group or something like that. That's pretty common in these types of communities, but yeah.
There are active single groups, and these are people that just want to get together and go to the baseball game,
right,
go to the beach together because they are alone and they want to have that fellowship, I guess you could say, between people.
Sure.
And the question that we get about people in their faith, that's really important to our clients. They're all people of faith, and rest assured, whatever faith you are, there's accommodation for that. Don't even think twice about it.
Perfect. That's fantastic. Excellent. So, okay, so there are 5 different clubhouses, community centers.
Yes.
How does that work from a neighborhood perspective? Meaning you've got segmented areas within On Top of the World. Can you kind of describe some of that and the access that people have to and from the different clubhouses?
Sure. So think of On Top of the World as a big community and smaller neighborhoods within it. Okay. So 3 of the major communities by name are going to be On Top of the World maintenance area. Okay. Then you're going to have Candler Hills. Then you're going to have Indigo, and the new section, which is Weyburn Landing. Okay. Each one of those have their own amenity center, and some share back and forth and some do not. Okay, so Indigo, you've got 2 amenity centers to use all you want. Weyburn is going to have theirs. On Top of the World in the maintenance area has the clubs that you've shown on the photos here. And then Candler has its own club also. But they have a program in there so that if you want to use all of those, let's say you bought a home in Indigo and you want to use all the rest of the amenities, they have a program for that. It's not very expensive either. So
excellent.
You can use all of them.
Good to know. And so that's an important factor too, because there's no simple, if folks weren't taking notes just now, or if they want to rewatch this, that's fine. But that's really the value where someone like yourself or any of the 55 Places partner agents in the market, you guys know all this. I mean, you literally are out there nearly every single day, multiple times a day, and you have access to really kind of simplify it for
Right.
people. So I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And then, so you've got new homes, you've got resale homes. Let's talk about the new homes.
Okay.
You can purchase new build to order, meaning you get to kind of pick all your options. Do they
Right.
carry any inventory of finished homes, like move-in ready type homes? What's the scenario for that?
Okay, so on top of the world is what we call a production builder. They're going to
Okay.
have about 20 floor plans, and the footprints are going to be the same. Uh, so you're not going to be able to modify the actual construction of the home itself. Like I need to blow this wall out 2 more feet, something
Right.
like that. That's not going to happen.
Right.
What you are going to be able to do is pick all of your finishes.
Okay.
So I want luxury vinyl plank. I want granite instead of quartz. I want whatever you want. So they're going to have a huge menu of selections for what you can put in those homes. And honestly, their homes start pretty well decked out. They're not super plain vanilla. They're
Okay.
going to come with nice kitchens and granite, uh, almost 10-foot ceilings, things like that. They come standard with, which is great, which
Yeah,
is absolutely great.
for sure.
So there's a couple of choices on those new homes. They have what they call the cottage series, which are smaller, let's say 12 to 1400, 1500 square feet.
Okay.
2 bedroom, 2 bath, maybe a den. Very nicely and well thought out floor plans.
Yep.
Then we move into the Premier series, which is going to be 1500 up to about 2000 square feet.
Okay.
Those are 2 bedrooms with a den, typically a few 3-bedroom homes in that series. So that's where the majority of our builds usually end up.
Okay.
Because that price range you're talking about, that mid 200s, where most of those will land.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the next is called the Estate series. Now the Estate series are your 3-bedroom, 2 maybe 3-car garages, 2 maybe 3 baths, and up to 2,800 square feet. I think is the largest one, or 26 or 2,800 square feet.
Yeah.
These are super nice homes. Also with that comes a little more lot premium, so your prices are getting up there also. Most of those are going to land in the mid 300s.
Perfect. Excellent. We had a question from a gentleman named Ken, and I'm going to kind of reword his question a little bit, but he was asking about the new construction and if they offer any special offers. Now, you don't have to necessarily go in and explain what it is today, but how does that work? And what are you able to do to help facilitate that for customers who are looking to build with the developer?
Okay, that's a great question. They have different programs and they vary from month to month, really, as far as I can tell. So they call them choice bucks. So they're going to say our incentive for this period is $9,000 or $10,000 in choice bucks, which means use it for whatever you want. You want to tile the living room? Great. You want to upgrade your lot? Great. That money is there for you to use as a credit. Okay. I do want to throw one thing in here too. Speaking of new home construction, a lot of these communities have what is commonly called a stay and play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and on top of the world, they call it WTA, or World Tour Adventure.
Okay.
And right now, they're offering that at a great bargain. So reach out to your 55 plus agent and ask them about that, because it's fantastic and it's only for a couple months.
And what is it?
3 days and 2 nights.
Okay, 3 days, 2 nights. You get to stay on site in the community. Do you have access to the amenities? Do you get to use the facilities?
It's as if you live there. Okay. You're going to be in a furnished home with a golf car in the garage, and I believe some bicycles if you want to get out and pedal around a little bit.
Sure.
It's as if you live there. You will spend some time with the new home specialist and with me, because I like to be there for you also, to talk about what's available and what your options are, and how much home can I afford? How much can I build?
Yeah.
And you'll spend also some time with some people that live there, so you can get a real residence view of what's going on. So it's great to live here, but oh, by the way, sometimes you get that too. but that's valuable information.
Absolutely. And you want what's best for your customers and your clients. So you don't ever want them to walk into it blind.
Right.
While we're on the topic of the associations and all that, we had a great question from Christine. She said, what are the fees and what do they include? I know that's a really simple question, but it's a very detailed answer. So if you can maybe simplify that, maybe ranges and all that kind of stuff might be appropriate.
Sure. It depends on the neighborhood. So remember, large communities, small neighborhoods within. So you can start out with some place like Indigo, where your HOA is going to be about $175 per month. It's going to include trash, cable or internet, use of the amenities, things like that. That's all included in that. Okay. When you move over into the maintenance area, where they're going to cut your grass, trim your shrubs, repaint your house every 7 years, do minor repairs on the outside, pay for the outside portion of your homeowner's insurance,
right?
Those things like that, plus the use of the amenities and the 24-hour security guarded gate.
Okay.
You're looking at about $350 per month. Okay.
Got
when
it.
you move over into Candler and into the larger homes, the estate series homes, you're going to be about $275 a month. That's going to include everything we talked about except for the lawn care. All right.
Got
it. Things like trash we all worry about, that's taken care of for you.
Yeah.
How am I going to, internet is there. In some homes, you're going to get internet included. Some you're going to get cable included.
Got it.
So it's kind of a little bit around the place, but like we said, call us. We'll tell you what it is exactly where you want to live.
Yeah, excellent. And again, while we're still on the new construction topic, we had a great question from Ken. Was asking, should we work directly with On Top of the World or with a real estate agent? And I'm gonna start by answering this question a little bit, and you can add your thoughts here, Russ. Which is, Ken, ultimately you have the choice to do both. But one of the things that most folks don't realize when they're walking into those sales offices is those sales folks are super friendly. And I've met a bunch of them over at On Top of the World. They are a wonderful group of people. They're very informative and they know what they're talking about. But they represent the developer. They are representative agents for that developer. So when you walk into an office, you're not represented unless you're, utilizing somebody like Russ. And so one of the elements that some people think of, when I'm using a realtor, because that real estate agent is going to get compensated for their services and their efforts of how they're helping you, is that I can save that money by not using a realtor. And that's not true. It's actually an ethical aspect of our agreement that we have as National Association of Realtors, that you can't offer a better deal just because you don't have representation. So I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Russ, but that was a great question from Ken.
Yeah, that is a good question. And this is what I like to say about that is our service doesn't cost you anything. Like you said, Cameron, you're not going to save money because you don't have an agent. The really important thing about using an agent, especially one of us that are partner agents 55 places, we know all the people in there and we know which home specialist is going to work best for you and your situation. So we want to introduce you to the person that we know, we like, we trust, and they do a great job and take care of you. That has more value than you can imagine. So that's a big part of us.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There's that continued relationship that you have with the on-site staff, not just the salespeople, but the managers, the construction folks, and you have especially if you're coming from out of state, you've got an advocate, you've got somebody that's there for you, boots and eyes on the ground kind of thing. So yeah, that was a great question. Okay, a few other questions on amenities. Are there dog parks? We had a great question from Helen about dog parks in the community.
Absolutely. There are there's 4 dog parks, I believe now. They're separated between large and small dogs. The dog question is great because they go, well, what if I take my 5-pound Chihuahua and there's a 95-pound lab? Well, they're split. Okay, small and large dog parks. So there's no restrictions on dogs in there except for quantity.
Okay.
That's it. 2 dogs.
Got it. Cool. Golf, big topic. First off, is there golf in the community? If not, where is it? What's the golf situation over in that area?
Yeah, there are 3 courses in On Top of the World. 2
Wow.
are private, only for residents and the friends of residents.
Okay.
Okay, so if you
Okay.
want to bring your buddy in and play golf, perfect. The third one is a semi-private course. That is the Candler Hills course. That's a challenging one. I mean, the other 2 are great, but Candler's is challenging. They actually have a lot of the Marion Open is held there on occasion, so
Okay.
it's a tough one, but they're in great condition right now. I was out there today. They're looking great. Even though we're a little dry, they're looking great.
Yeah. And so the 2 that are private, those are like membership courses where you do a buy-in and then you pay like a monthly fee.
Yeah, actually, it's an annual fee if you choose. Okay.
Okay.
So there's one fee, and once you pay it, there's no other cost for you. You just
Okay.
play as much as you want for the membership.
Got it.
If you're not playing about 3 times a week, go in and pay as you play. You can do that. So just pay your green fees for the once or twice a week you play. Perfect. No
Got it.
worries.
That's excellent. And then if you wanted to even get outside the community, I got to imagine there's tons of golf opportunities throughout the
Oh
Ocala
my
area.
gosh. There's got to be 200 courses within 15 miles. There are courses everywhere. You know, we're only about 35 minutes from the villages.
Okay.
Everyone's heard of the villages, and there's tons of golf down there. There's 15 or 20 courses right in Ocala. So if you're a golfer, you could play a new course every day, every month, and
Yeah.
not run out.
Yeah, awesome. I love this question from Cheryl. She was asking about what kind of financing options are available on the homes, and one of the programs, we weren't planning on talking about this, Russ, but let's address it.
Okay.
It's our 62 plus branded loan, and can you kind of describe, because you've actually out of hundreds of agents that we work with across the country, you utilize this one the most, and it's been a great advantage for you. Can you address that one, but then also just traditional financing as well?
Sure.
And sorry, it's 62 plus is the
Right.
loan. And the reason why that is because that's one of the requirements.
Yeah, you've got to be at least 62 years old. And this is an opportunity, and I'll just briefly tell a story. So we had a customer that came to Ocala from 55places.com. We got together with her, and she started looking at homes and realized that the home she really wanted was outside of her budget.
Okay.
So we introduced her to the 62 plus mortgage, which allowed her to spend the same cash
Okay.
and buy a much nicer and larger home with
Perfect.
no mortgage payments. It's
Okay.
a fantastic product, and I'd love to talk to anybody who wants to go into that a little bit, because I'm kind of a fan.
Yeah.
And On Top of the World specifically, you're allowed to use conventional loans and always cash. Cash is king, of course, but 20% down payment is required in On Top of the World.
Okay.
So, and that's a good reason for that. Back in 2008, when things kind of looked hairy,
Sure.
that community survived the best because everyone had equity in their homes. So it really worked out good for them.
Good.
But again, talk to your agent for your best options. We do have options for you.
Good. Awesome. Walking trails. Gretchen was asking, do they have walking trails in the area?
Oh my gosh. Yes, they have. In the community, there's probably about 20 miles of designated walking trails.
Okay.
Some of those include sidewalks in the streets. Some of them are almost native trails. So that's great inside the community. If you go out of the community about 5 miles, you hit the trailhead in the Cross Florida Greenway, which has hundreds of miles of walking trails, biking trails, horseback trails, anything you want to do. It's
Wonderful.
fantastic. You could literally walk from Ocala to the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you mentioned horseback riding, and Ocala is a very, very popular area, has been historically for years. In fact, a lot of the Derby horses, they train in that area, right? And for any horse fans out there.
Yeah, a lot of the Derby winners have been trained here.
Yeah.
We hear about it. We're pretty proud of that. We brand ourselves as the horse capital of the world. Kentucky would differ with that a little bit, but the difference there is Kentucky's more about thoroughbreds and quarter horses, where in Ocala, we like with Pasafinos and the draft horses and thoroughbreds. and all those different horses you don't normally think about, the trotters, and they're all over. We are building right now the World Equestrian Center. And if you haven't heard about that, go online and look it up. It's going to be done next year. It's gorgeous. They've already got thousands of stalls done. The arena is getting done, and the hotel is being worked on right now. It's going to be beautiful.
Awesome. Very cool. Great.
4 miles from on top of the world.
You said 4 miles?
4 miles, yeah.
Awesome. Good deal. All right, we're going to try and pick off a few, just last few questions here. Mary Ellen was asking about the yards. Can you put a fence around your yard so that you can protect your dogs? Does it depend on the neighborhood? What's the situation there?
Yeah, fences are allowed in most situations. There are a few places where they don't, like golf course lots and things like that.
Okay.
But yes, you can do a 4 foot high. Typically white vinyl is one of the more popular ones. But yes, you can put fences. It's just as with every other community, they ask you to check in with them first to make sure it's going to meet all the conditions. But yes.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
What about owning? A great question from Renee about asking if you own your home, are you able to rent it out? And if so, what are the parameters on that? Can it be short-term, long-term, seasonal?
It requires a long-term lease. Seasonal, short-term leases are not allowed in the community. There's some good things about that. It makes the community more stable and fewer, what I would say, transient residents. But you are allowed to rent it out. We've actually had clients who bought homes in there who are not 55 and rent them out so that when they are ready to retire, their homes are paid for.
Got it. Perfect. Helen was asking, she said, are there any restrictions on what you can do outside of your property? Maybe talk about the HOA and what the benefits are of having an HOA, because, the answer technically is yes, but there's, but ...
Yeah. Yes, but is the right answer.
Yeah.
There is, in most of these communities, there is what we call an architectural review board, or short ARB for short. If you're going to make a change, if you decide you want to put a screen room on the back of your house, in most cases you can do that. The ARB just wants to see what you're going to do to make sure that it meets the guidelines of the community, because those guidelines are there to maintain your value and the aesthetics of the community.
Absolutely.
Because we have our beautiful home here. We don't want the guy next door rebuilding a hot rod in his driveway.
Right.
Okay. We don't want a storage shed in the back. So that's what those are there for, to maintain the integrity.
Absolutely. Yep. Great question, Helen. Okay, there's still some questions out there, folks, and unfortunately we just don't have time to answer them all. But I did want to address a big topic that's on everybody's minds these days, all across the world, really, and that's the COVID-19 virus pandemic that we're all dealing with here. So, Russ, it's late into May. We're just coming into Memorial Day weekend here of 2020. What is the situation out there? Are services open? Are they not? And what kind of information can you share? You mentioned that the I forget what the acronym was, but the stay and play. Is that open? Can people go into the sales office? Can you buy a home right now if that's really where you're at in the process?
Yeah, good. That's good thought. Most of the stay and plays are on hold until June. Okay. Most of the amenity centers are not open yet. They're open for outdoor activity, but not inside yet. So you want the full effect of living there. So you need to wait till those are open again.
Yeah.
Can you buy a house? Absolutely. We're selling houses every day. Our market is strong here. Sure. We are showing homes in person now. Hotels are open. Restaurants are open. It's easy to get in here now. Flights are a little difficult because there's not that many. But those of you who might, if you're living in Kentucky or someplace and you want to make the drive down, it's not that bad a drive. Okay. Come down, the hotels are open. We're booking appointments now out into June, actually. So come down. It's time to buy a house.
Yeah. I would echo that in the sense that, Russ lives and works in the Ocala, Florida area, and part of my role is a little bit more widespread, and we're seeing across the entire country right now, inventory of homes on the resale side anyways have been historically low for several years. Let's just say the pandemic did not help that circumstance. It actually made it a little bit worse. So we are seeing a lot of demand for folks that are wanting to get into a home, especially in the coming months. I would reach out to Russ, your agent that you might be working with, immediately, and start talking about those plans and what you can do, because there are absolutely avenues and ways for you to be able to make a purchase decision and move forward. I mean, Russ, you were commenting right before this that you've never sold so many homes virtually before until recently, right?
Right. This is one of my best tools right here.
Sure.
I can get you on the phone on Zoom, and we can walk through that home just like you were there. It's like, hey, Russ, open that door. I want to see what's in there. Open the door up. That's what you got. So we're happy to do that. We do it all the time. You can buy a house and show up when you want to show up. We'll take care of everything here.
And I've just shared here in closing, I've just shared the contact info. If you want to reach out to Russ directly, or if you're, like I said, working with one of our other agents like Ron or John or Sheila, we got some wonderful folks there in Ocala that you can connect with, and we'll make sure that you get in touch with somebody. But feel free to call or email us, and we'll make sure that happens. So Russ, listen, thank you so much for your time. Everybody who showed up, I really appreciate everybody's attendance and engagement. You have a great day, Russ. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.